Namaskar. A few days ago, you heard about in what areas China is going to be attacking from a banker slash venture capitalist, 𝙒𝙗𝙤𝙤𝙤. I thought, why not get a perspective from somebody who has been in the army, seen it all, lived his life in the armed forces, rose to become a lieutenant general. General Ravi Shankar is our guest today, and we're going to listen to him as to how he is seeing China. General Ravi Shankar, namaskar and welcome to PGurus channel, sir.
Namaskar and thanks a lot for inviting me on the show, and a very good evening to all our viewers. And lead it on, sir.
Thank you so much, sir. Look, viewers, we always believe in giving you a 360-degree view of anything. And General Ravi Shankar is going to bring in his perspective on how he sees it. But before he brings in his perspective, he would like to share some data. And he's going to do that by the way of a presentation. General, please take it away, sir.
Thanks a lot. Can we have the slides so that we can? Yeah, thanks a
There we
lot.
go.
Thanks a lot. Some time back I had written article in the Sunday Guardian about the falling trajectory of a rising China. You know, Everyone talks China is rising, is going to be aggressive, everything. But I have a different take on it. And China's behavior is going to be based on how things unfold in future, right? What we saw on earlier this month, or middle of last month, in the 20th Party Congress, was a political show, right? It is nothing more than that. The real nuts and bolts of China are not revealed in that, so we'll go over that. Sometime back in September, I gave a talk to a lot of army officers on what Chinese economy is, where it's going. These are the headlines, and these are headlines from the South China Morning Post, which I collected over the entire month. What did it tell me? It told me Chinese foreign firms are struggling to survive. The consumer and sentiment is down. Factory inflation is up, right? Uh, there's job markets are down. Population is shrinking, and how does China grapple with this problem? Right, Chinese exporters were down, exports were down. So all these were the headlines. Hundreds of jobs cut in ByteDance. It's not only ByteDance; they've been cut across entire corporate China. Right. Uh, One thing, their economy. One opinion says China must adapt accordingly to cope with population tech headwinds. Right. Bank rate cuts were there. There were three, or I think two or three bank rate cuts, unprecedented in China within a matter of 1 month. They went through a drought, and their cultivation and all was a problem. And then, of course, savers at risk as China's small banks face perfect storm. That is over non-payment of mortgages, which is continuing. The real estate problem is still continuing. It's not run away. Okay. Now, we must remember also in this year, China has faced a huge drought. Okay. If you see the area covered by drought, it is very huge and it is unprecedented in recorded history of China. Okay. They've not had such a drought. And the entire Yangtze basin was affected. I mean, not only that, must also, it puts things in a stark perspective. 2 years back, the same area was under severe flooding. Everyone thought that the Three Gorges Dam will, fall off. But now it's the other way around. That means China is open to climate risk of a magnitude which we cannot imagine. And China has had this problem of famines. It's not new. It's a food insecure nation. Their food insecurity is they got huge stocks, they bought land in Africa and Laos and all that. But that's okay, right? Okay. Right. Now, what are the headlines today after this? After the 20th Party Congress? You're right. This is it. Chinese factory activity shrinks as coronavirus curbs its output. You know the Foxconn factory and the fiasco which is happening in Beijing.
Yes, yes, yes. I've been reading about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One headline says how much is China's economy struggling and how much worse can it get. Right. Now China's foreign capital outflow is quickened and yuan has gone down the drain. I mean, it's hit one of its lowest streaks since 1994. Okay. Home rents have dropped by about 20% in Shanghai. Why? Mainlanders are leaving China. Okay. Then the coronavirus is, new curbs. They don't know where it is going. And they feel that there are dire and complicated outbreaks going to happen. Okay. Now, last, they have something called a Singles Day, festival. In that, the economy is taking a hit. There's no consumer sentiment there. There's no sales. And if you look at Shanghai's ocean freight containers movement and all, that's also dropped. What does it tell you? If you see any new Chinese newspaper, say across a week, you will find 90% of stories which highlight great things. But if over that 1 week, there will be 10% of stories. If you piece them together, the picture which comes out is stark. And this is the truth. Ultimately, truth will come out. Propaganda cannot be the prime way of living life. Okay, so this is it. Now, how has China's GDP changed over time? I call it. I put this analysis out. Mind you, this data which I'm showing is from the National Bureau of Statistics of China, not mine. From 2012 onwards, a economy which was growing at 10 to 12% has gone down. I call it the Xi Jinping rate of growth. There's a Chinese economist who said the day when China's economy overtakes the US economy is going further away and not getting nearer. And this is not of yesterday or day before. He said this 1 year back when the property crisis started. The Financial Times, recent last I think week or so, has stated that China's economy is unlikely to overtake the US economy till 2060, if ever. Now this is an interesting thing which I found. If China's growth had continued and the earlier trajectory as per what it was under Hu Jintao, right? And this steady slow from say 10% to 3% had not come down, the Chinese economy would have been 25 to 40% larger. It would have probably overtaken the US economy by now. So Xi Jinping has done what Trump could not do to the US economy. Okay. I mean, yesterday's New York Times, there's an opinion which said, Trump might not be the president which America deserved, but Trump was the president which China deserved because he sorted out China. Okay. Now, if you look at the population, it's very interesting. This is the peak. The peak has occurred this year. This is again, it's not mine. It's the Shanghai. The source is the Shanghai Social Sciences Academy, right? And hereafter, there's going to be a steep decline in the population. What's interesting in this is, if you analyze China, say 4-5 years back, okay, the peak was to happen in 2031-32. Suddenly, mysteriously, this year, 6 months back, they said the peak has occurred. So that means this whole thing is absolute 10 years. You don't fast forward a population peak by 10 years unless the whole thing is something is greatly amiss. Okay, now you look at this. This is the loss of working population which is going to happen over the next 10-20 years. By 2030, there's going to be a net loss of 60 million people. Okay, by 2040, it is 340 million people. One third of, they'll have a working population loss of one third of what it is today, for one fourth. That is huge. Yeah,
General Ravi Shankar, if you don't mind going back to the previous slide.
yeah, I'll do
Now,
that.
many people, yeah, let's put that thing up, please. Many people have said that China realized that they may have overcounted their population by about 100 million, and that the peak happened perhaps around 2012, around the time that Xi Jinping came to power. So that is one of the things that people are kind of now in agreement, even inside China, sir. So that kind of, I just wanted to compliment
Yeah,
your
yeah,
information there. Yeah.
yeah. Their population, there's one professor in Madison University um, who's written an article on this, and he feels that the population is down already. Today's population,
Hmm.
they say, is 1.4 billion. He says it's only 1.28 billion or something like that,
Right.
right? So there is something amiss in this entire population thing. And what's more, they've launched this two-child policy, three-child policy. It's not bearing effect. See, one of the fundamental problems why it will not take off is that China has practiced female infanticide and gender, choices ever since.
Hmm.
So there is a problem. Okay. Now we'll talk about the COVID figures later. Now, so
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
you talk of this working age population, the working hands are going to reduce. That means the
Right.
productivity is going to reduce, and this is not far ahead. You're talking of 5, 6, 7, 8 years ahead. Okay. It is today. This problem, this demographic bomb is exploding today. It is not of tomorrow. Everyone thought that the population is going to, problem is going to occur tomorrow. It's not. It is happening today. All this, they have been glossed over in this Congress, 20th Party Congress, and naturally, look at the loss of human capital which has taken place. I mean, this is a very interesting thing. In 2000, they had the number of births they had were 17 to 18 million. You do backward integration, right? In 2022, today, this is a thing which I've taken again out of China. They have had 10.67 million graduates. In 2021, last year, they had only 10 million births, which means they're going to, by 2043, 20 years hence, when these chaps enter college, there will only be 6.3 million graduates. Okay. That means 40% loss of human capital and knowledge. And this is going to happen. I mean, interesting. This is going to happen within Xi Jinping's third and fourth term, or his thing for life. He's going to preside over this biggest loss of human capital and demography in mankind. Okay, this is staring at their face, it's not running away. Again, none of this is what I have said. This is what Chinese people are saying on their media platforms. The household debt, everyone talks of national debt of China gone over 250, 300%, etc., etc., etc. What about the household debt? In the past 5, 6 years, okay, if you see 2008 to 2018, it is even worse today. This data is also dated. The Chinese household debt has increased. And now China is going through a period of significant unemployment, reduced wages, etc., etc., because of zero COVID. This situation would be actually very bad. Okay, this can't be wrong for the simple reason that people are not paying the mortgages on the uh, loans they've taken for the property, and the property is not being made. So this is a real life problem which is touching people at the bottom, at the grassroots level. Now they've gone. China progressed hell of a lot during the period of globalization. They manipulated globalization to their thing. Today we're going in through deglobalization. Globalization is in reverse. Okay, a lot of people have said that the German chancellor is going to China with a set of businessmen. There's a lot of criticism about his going and dealing with China. But if you look at the businessmen, they say, look, we have to go because we want to save our skins. We're not going to engage, but we have to save what is there. We have committed in China already, right? The American business of, um, business, chambers and organizations. Again, I read this in the New York Times today. They have coined a phrase called ABC. What is ABC? Invest anywhere but China. This is sentiment of the international business people. So deglobalization is going to happen. Already iPhones, the latest iPhones are being made in Vietnam and India. If one follows, the others will follow. So, okay. Then there are a lot of song and dance which Xi Jinping made on core technologies. But look at it. Everyone says China is a high-tech nation and all that. How many Nobel Prizes have they got? In the past 10, 15 years, they got 5 Nobel Prizes. One of them was for, other literature or something like that. Not technology or, sciences. They don't have technology for seeds. Every third, fourth month, you find Mr. Xi Jinping telling some, event that we should make headway in seed technology. Only then we will be food secure. They don't have beej, fundamental beej, vaccines. They don't have vaccines. If they had that technology for vaccines, they wouldn't have been in the zero COVID business. It is known, right? They don't have engines for their aircraft. It's nice to say I have a fifth generation aircraft, but what you have to fly it. They don't have engine technology. Semiconductors, they don't have technology. There's a squeezes. In fact, if you see the quest for semiconductors in China, when I say semiconductors, not the normal semiconductors which are for everyday use, but high-end semiconductors, they've invested a lot, and there are a lot of scams in that. Nothing more than scams. Today, people don't want to go and invest in China. There's lack of meritocracy or trust in China for the simple reason it's a one-man rule. The complete earlier under Hu Jintao, there was a veto system. Hu Jintao had a veto system in the Politburo. If there was a policy which was being enunciated, and if someone in the Politburo said, I don't agree with it, that policy was dropped. Today, if there's a policy being propagated by Xi Jinping, and if someone says, I don't agree with it, he'll be dropped, not the policy. And he'll be dropped into some, re-education center for life. That's the status. Who's interested in this? He's gone back. He's taken China back to that one-man rule. Okay, there's no merit. Merit doesn't come up. Loyalty has come up. Everyone recognizes this. Who will invest there? Will you put your money there? I don't see anyone putting their money there. So what's the thing which came out from this 20th Party Congress? They're talking of rejuvenation of the Chinese dream in the face of unparalleled complexity, graveness. He's spoken of black swan and grey rhino events. They are very cognizant of the fact that they're going to get hit broadside. He's spoken of the difficulty that China faces at home and abroad. What is the Xi Jinping thought? It's all about ideology, national security, state control, all this above economic growth. It is second. They've spoken of commitment to zero COVID because they cannot get away from it. And of course, this thing of common prosperity, which is going nowhere. I've written an article on common prosperity also. Right? Dual circulation, anti-corruption. These are the watchwords by which this regime is now functioning. And he's talking of having the courage to fight and fortitude to win and make our party invincible. All this is great talk. Any Neta anywhere talks like this to stay in power. You take any party, before an election or something, you go to their manifesto, party manifesto, it will come like this only. There's nothing very great which has happened in this 20th Party Congress. my argument is this: China before 20th Party Congress was better than the China after the 20th Party Congress on all metrics. And the difference is just about 5 to 6 months. It's not improved just because this 20th Party Congress has happened. In fact, it has gone worse. Okay, what's going up in China today? Ideology, national security, state control, and zero COVID. Now, zero COVID has become it is not to control COVID anymore, because with the zero COVID, with the artificial intelligence and etc., 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 they have started controlling people's lives. That's state control of everything. The military is going up, okay, and there's a single point leadership. This is what is going up. Now, what is going down? Economy, globalization, technology, leadership, demography. They're all going down, right? So, if you take all this into account, of course, there is this dream of reunification with Taiwan. Okay, so that's also going up. That's part of this thing. So, what's so special about China today, which was not there 3 months back? Nix. It's the same. Yeah, we can take this off. I think we've done with the thing. So, if someone tells me they're going to go and China is going to go militarily aggressive, it will be aggressive. But will it go to war? Especially when Russia is where it is, right? That's the end. If Xi Jinping takes China to war today, that might be the end of his rule, right? And war is a high risk option. So the whole story might unravel. So I don't think Xi Jinping is foolish enough to take China to war in a hurry. If you say he'll take China to war, say 2 to 3 years hence, possible. But my argument is slightly different. It's now been established that this coronavirus will continue for the next 2 to 3 years till it fades away. Other countries are coping with the virus and are living with the virus. We are all living with COVID. The Chinese have to live with zero COVID, not the virus. There's a difference. You are living with the COVID, they are living with zero COVID. Okay, that means their economy for the next 2 years cannot go up. And we've seen all the factors of deglobalization and people running away from China, etc., etc. That's also not changed. So their economy can't go up. After 2 years, 3 years, this demographic bomb will start exploding. Again, you might say, look, who's this stupid general talking of all this? But this is not my data, it is their data. I didn't shift the peak of Chinese population from 2031 to 2022. It is the Chinese National Bureau of Statistics. I'm only analyzing their data. They have a major problem coming up. And Xi Jinping is not a fool to talk of grey rhino events and black swan events. They also know this fellow is holding on to power. He'll hold on to power however it is. Okay. So whether he'll go to war or not is pure conjecture at this stage, because if he goes to war, whatever he has will also go down. I mean, let's look at it. If he takes Taiwan, fine, there's a rationale to take Taiwan. Now, if he starts taking senkakus and all, a few rocks anywhere where they've done some exploration for gas and oil, we don't know how good or what are they proven fields, nothing. And you go and do militarize yourself, then you pitted yourself against South Korea, Japan, Philippines, USA, and Taiwan permanently. And that will give a reason for USA to go and sit in Taiwan. And then China is completely contained for life. So, and especially after the fact that no one trusts China after what they did in the South China Sea and those islands which they built and all that. And India will take advantage of the situation if they do anything. And what many people don't realize, China is in a two-front situation. The first front is it's east, Taiwan, or that area. If it goes that side, the tail is on fire with India. If it turns towards India, that their uh, you know the front door is on fire. China is in a difficult condition. I mean, having seen all events from Eastern Ladakh to now, I can say with confidence, China will not do anything in a hurry. Right? Yeah. Questions. I've had my say. I don't mind taking questions, or I don't mind discussing issues which you would like to raise, Mr. Iyer.
First off, viewers, his sincere request to like this particular video. Like I said, this is sort of like a 360-degree view of where things are headed. We know geopolitics is in the front burner nowadays. Everybody is reacting to events. Everybody is doing something. So I please like this video. I'd like to see many more people watching this particular video. And General Ravi Shankar, a meticulous man, has put together a big slide deck, and I have a couple of questions from that slide deck, sir. First, I have a few questions, and then you can answer that, and then we will start including viewers' questions in short while. First question I had is, you said a word called dual circulation. Can you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah. What's dual circulation? Dual circulation is part of 𝙒𝙗𝙗𝑒conomics. 𝙒𝙗𝑒conomics is Z's economics. Okay. What's his theory? His theory is that China will improve its consumption. China will improve its export. So they'll circulate twice. Hitherto, his thing was that China was an exporting nation, but he will hereafter increase the consumption. It's not a consuming nation. So the dual circulation is, one circulation of economy will be internally through greater consumption. The other part will be externally through exports. Okay. The best part is both are failing today. No, you have to understand, the Chinese consumption pattern is around 20%. India's consumption is around 50 to 60%. And if you come to a country like USA and all, it is much more. Consumption is an important part of economy. And China is a manufacturing nation. It has to manufacture and someone has to consume it. Okay, just because you're a manufacturing nation, you cannot succeed. Someone has to consume it. Now, if others don't consume it and your exports go down, your own people have to consume it, and they're not doing it. So that's the problem, right? And in fact, it has gone down. Internal consumption has gone down. Sales of cars have gone down. Sales of iPhones have gone down. They're not my data. It's the data of the Chinese.
Thank you so much, General Ravi Shankar. And if you could permit me, I should have played this video at the beginning of this show, but somehow I missed it. So I just want to play a simple video, 30 plus seconds. Viewers, the reason I'm playing this is I have a very good friend, Dr. 𝗏𝙗𝘖𝙗𝘗𝑒𝑠𝑤𝑎𝑟𝑎𝑛, who has choreographed it. He wrote the lyrics and he has set to music 75 ragas, basically to celebrate the 75th year of independence of India. And the idea for us is, for every week, we are going to have one raga lead with that for that programs that come in that week. And just watch this first one. It's called Desh, and you'll understand where we are going with this concept. We really would like you to tell us whether you like this concept. And we are going to try, because this is too important, because we don't realize the richness of our culture. And that's a small effort on part of PGurus to try and bring this thing. With your permission, General, I'm going to play this video now.
Please.
Mataram, Vande Mataram, Pancha-Pancha-Dasharagamalinīṃ Sakala-Desha-Kala-Pravartinīṃ Shatamarga-Samatattva-Darshinīṃ Shatakoti-Jana-Rūpa-Dhāriಣīṃ Vande Mataram, Vande Mataram, Vande
Thank you so much, and I hope you liked it. This is also something that you will find in many popular tunes, and I'll leave it to our viewers. You can send by way of comments, and we'll tell you whether this is indeed the a particular song that you like is indeed based on Desh or not. Anyway, that was a brief segue into the rich culture of ragas that we have. The two colors in the video indicates that the same rag is also available as an equivalent in Hindustani. So Carnatic is one color, the other color is Hindustani. So that was the other point. Amazing stuff that Dr. Kanikeswaran has put together. And I'll keep playing these things. I hope the viewers like this concept. This is going to be actually beginning. We're going to start with this in all our other programs. Today we are a little bit late. My apologies. So back to questions. This week in Hong Kong, many bank leaders from all over the world are congregating. And I don't know the significance of that, but we have touched upon it in a different program. The point, I think, is that, like you said, the ABC concept, perhaps the banks who have lent so much money to mainland China and all that money went in through Hong Kong, they are probably trying to see how best they can preserve their investment. Your thoughts, sir?
Yeah, they're preserving the investment, recovery, and a lot of capital has already flown out of Hong Kong into Singapore, right? So because Hong Kong is no more the funnel into China, okay, uh, ever since the national reconciliation law was put in place, or right, and Hong Kong was usurped as part of mainland China. So this will continue. All these things will continue. It's only one by one things will unfold. What has been built over 30, 40 years cannot be undone over a day. It will be done over a period of time. But one thing I can say with confidence, then this is my own view, how China built up over the last 3 generations it took for China to build up to where it is today. It's going to go down in 1 generation. I mean, this is
Prescient
happening.
words.
This is
Prescient
happening.
words.
No, this look. It's not. It's look. Any nation is a conglomeration of people. If your people are going to reduce, your nation will go down. That's a very fundamental thing, and it's going to happen in the next 20 years. And this is as per their statistics, right? But I would like to make a differentiation here. It's not going to collapse. China will not collapse. China will continue. It will stagnate, right? And Xi Jinping rate of growth will ensure it stagnates there.
Thank you so much, sir. The next question I have is, we again reported in today's news, and this is still not hit MSM, but it will, is that many multinational companies from Japan and the United States have been asked to leave Taiwan. So there is again a guess that perhaps she might be eyeing Taiwan. Again, whether it is Taiwan or Shenkaku, we've also taken a bigger concept saying that there's all these island chain. They call it the first islands or something like that. And I think General Ravi Shankar, yeah. So General Ravi Shankar, unless there was something that America has found out, why do you think they would ask? See, Taiwan is again 30, 40, 50-year investment for United States and much longer than that for Japan. Even in fact, 25 years ago, I used to talk to people on the street in Taipei and so on, whoever could speak English. Many of them used to joke saying that the things were better under the Japanese occupation, believe it or not.
Hey, possible. What you're saying is possible. It's also possible that someone in the USA said don't invest in Taiwan. They may be limiting their options to hedge against an issue. But I don't see China going in for a military option against Taiwan at this point of time. I don't see it going at any point of time. Look, I've told you the risk of war. Okay, the risk of war is very high. It's also there, dictators and strongmen have a habit of losing wars like Saddam Hussein and continuing in power. It can happen. But they're going to wreck China. Look at it from a slightly different point of view. As much as US can, harm Taiwan, The process of military annexation of Taiwan is not a one-way affair. Taiwan has got some potent weapons. What if it destroys Shanghai or the entire coast? That's the richest part of China, right? China's economy will go down as it has gone down, as it is in a bad shape. If in a war, if it goes down further, if they start losing people, and they're unprepared. I mean, militarily they are unprepared. Let's be very clear. They're not. They can't undertake this kind of a complicated amphibious operation. Okay, if that happens, where will China be? I mean, all of us look at it as if China is the biggest dragon going around everywhere. I think it's a sick lizard. So leave it at that.
Thank you, General Ravi Shankar. This is a more of a philosophical question, sir, and you can tell me what you think. Zero COVID policy that she has, sort of like wears it around his neck that this is how we are going to combat COVID. Now, if we go back and look at what happened in the last couple of years, they first came out with a vaccine called Sinovac, and they gave it to many countries. They all said that the effectiveness is very low, and they returned it back. Then they went out and said, no, that's okay. That was early stuff. Now there is a new one called Sinopharm. And again, same kind of results. So he has already got information, not just from within China, but without, that his vaccines have not really worked. Why did he then not reach out to the West to say, give us some vaccines? Why did he go back to a much more reclusive zero COVID policy, sir?
See, there are two aspects to this. One, if you import if you import vaccines from outside, okay, it's an admission of defeat that your technology was not successful. So China, loss of face is an important issue. He didn't want to lose face, right? Because he spoke of China will rescue people out of the pandemic. We'll give vaccines to the world, everything, and it's collapsed. Forget collapse. His own people are not taking it. Okay, that's the first part. Because they don't trust their own government on these issues, core level. Okay, but the second part, which I touched upon, is this zero COVID or the coronavirus has given Xi Jinping a method to control the masses. Where they go, what they do, on a day-to-day, minute-to-minute basis.
A dictator's delight.
Absolutely. Now, every man in China, man, woman, child in China, has to wear some
dog collars.
Whatever, call it, right? And you can only go to a place if you are allowed to go there. And the reason is COVID. Whether COVID is there or not is not. For example, when those strikes against the banks took place in Henan, when there were demonstrations in China for people not getting money, people found their codes turning red, that they couldn't go anywhere. Right? So, that means he could control people. He can control where they are going and not going. Okay. So, that's a political. That's why I said we are living with the COVID. China is living with zero COVID. They are not fighting against COVID anymore. They are living with zero COVID, which is a political policy. Right? These are the two aspects to this. So I hope it answers the question.
Yes, it does. And thank you so much, General Ravi Shankar. I love this, verbal banter that we both have. Yeah. We are thinking of various ways in which people are trying to get into the heads of some of the very prominent people. Let's take some questions, please.
Yeah.
Santosh Kumar wants to know, Namaskar, General Sir. Here in GCC, China is building oil security deals. I think Gulf Cooperation Council. China is building oil security deals across the board. How can we correlate this to their declining economy?
It's not a matter of their declining economy. They don't have a choice. China is an energy deficient nation. There's no two ways about it. They need oil, right? If tomorrow USA put sanctions and that energy is denied to them, they are done. Forget declining. Uh, Whether the economy is declining or not, it's still a nation of 1.4 billion people or 1.2, 1.4 billion people. They need energy. Where will they go without energy? They don't have. So they will, I mean, just because China is declining, we should not rule out the fact that it's still a big nation, it's a big economy, it's the second largest economy. It is going to have its weight in the world. The question is, will it have the same weight it had, say, 1 year, 2 years back or not? Okay. Do we have a better understanding of China to deal with it or not? Do we have the self confidence? I mean, when I look at it, India growing, China declining. Do we have the self confidence to stand up to China and say, get lost? And we're doing it. We have to analyze China from that perspective. Okay, right? That is how it is. So let's not do away with the wish away China. It's going to be there. It's after all 1/5 of humanity. Okay. Yeah.
𝙒𝙗𝙖𝙩𝙤𝙬 wants to know, sir, does anyone really know where China stands today with respect to economics and ability to become the next superpower? You are projecting the negatives, which may be true, but others are projecting the positive.
Yeah, I that's a fair question to ask, Kamlaksh. But let me ask you a counter question back. The statistics which I have given are not mine. They're the Chinese statistics. The GDP has gone down. It's the Chinese GDP. Whatever I've quoted is Chinese. Look, let me explain. Unlike others, I have never been to China. I've only seen China across a border. I've seen Chinese people across a border, right? I am not absolutely impressed by whatever I've seen of China. Whatever, I'm not a businessman, so I have a very clear way of analyzing China, and I analyze China from Chinese sources. My sources, I don't quote statistics. I don't quote from New York Times or Hindu or the Gulf Times or something like that, or Khaleej Times or something. I quote from South China Morning Post, China Daily, those which come out of China officially. The official figures tell me all this, right? And I put together that and talk to you. Like I said, China will continue to be a big power. It's always been a big power. Is it a superpower? I don't agree with it. Someone might have a view that it is a superpower. That's all the best to them. You might make it into a superpower for political purposes. That you have one superpower, you should have another superpower. So that's a different story, but it's no superpower.
Next question from Santosh Kumar again. General Sir, they have penetrated the intelligence sharing mechanism with Gulf states. Why this desperation of sharing intelligence, and what do they have to gain from this?
Yeah, that's a fair question. They say information is power, intelligence is the expression of that power. So they will. Every country gathers its intelligence. And you have to grant it to China that they have a very refined way of collecting intelligence. They have a very focused and a clear way of influencing their target countries. And the target countries could be friends or foes, it doesn't matter. They have a method of garnering influence. Right? All this is there. So they will. And if their lifeline is from the Gulf in terms of energy, they must have intelligence about it. So they will do it.
Next question, please. Ganesh Prasad Kamath wants to know, how valid is the Chinese COVID death figures, or how valid are the Chinese COVID death figures? If rumors are to be believed, it could run into lakhs. What is your take?
Well, I think the Chinese COVID death figures are by and large reliable. I'm going against the grain of the ground. Why? If they were so many, they would have Xi Jinping wouldn't have been liked by so many people. This is the paradox in China. Okay, the Chinese society is a very obedient society. They follow the leader. And they have done it. They've done it with Chiang Kai-shek at one point of time. They've done it with their dynasties earlier. They've done it with Mao. They've done it with Deng Xiaoping, right? And if you go by reports coming out of anywhere, the popularity rating of Xi Jinping in China amongst the normal Chinese is very high, right? So for whatever reason, okay. No, they couldn't have been high if the death was high, and a lot of people believe that the they they go with the zero COVID policy or the line which has been sold to them that we are saving your lives. And of course, there is propaganda also in this. The Chinese have gone and shown to the government, Xi Jinping and the communists have gone and shown the Chinese people that so many people have died outside and X, Y, Z, and we are saving you. So that is also there. But the credibility of that propaganda wouldn't have been, strong enough if there were enough deaths inside also. The contrast. So to that extent, uh, I don't give too much credence to the rumors which are floating around. They have achieved something, but is it the way to achieve it? Is it the what is the motive? Is a different story.
Maniaphobia wants to know, why not India side with USA publicly? Why not India have US arms bases in India like Japan, Europe, Australia? The main reason is the dollar can never be replaced.
Oh well, that's a view. I think maniaphobia seems to be from US, uh, but I have a different take on this. India is an independent country which believes in strategic autonomy. That's our history. Please understand this. At a time when we were poor, there was abject poverty in India. We still said we will not be part of any camp. Okay, we aligned with USSR at a time when we needed someone. Till then, we survived without them. When the USSR collapsed, we still are surviving on our own. If you see, I read a interesting article uh, in South China Morning Post, which said India is a friend to none and a friend to all. Okay, and Mr. Rajmohan also, see Rajmohan, who's a strategic affairs analyst in Indian, he's also recently written that India follows its own foreign policy. In fact, that article is just about 2 days old. For the nation, for itself, right? We cannot be subservient to USA. Actually, the way things are going, this is my personal view, and we could have a discussion sometime down the line, Mr. Iyer, on this. That India is emerging as a third pole. If China is one pole, right, it is there. You cannot wish it away. And USA is an established pole, which is the third pole. It's India. And 3 months back, I wrote an article called "The Centrality of India in Global Affairs." Okay, India is becoming more important in the globe. We are the largest, fastest growing economy, right? And that growth is not thanks to USA. Why should I? Right? India has been independent of US arms for so long. We are not dependent. Even now, we are not dependent on US arms, and they don't give it to us free of cost. Okay, so we do not want anyone else to dictate or for external affairs or internal affairs. If we do that, we'll be like Pakistan. I mean, if someone accepts that tomorrow a deposed Prime Minister of India can go and campaign in India and say, I have been dethroned or deposed because of US government, like it happens in Pakistan, okay, will you be proud of the whole state of affairs of your own country, I will not be. Okay, so we'll leave it at that.
Next question, please. Signal wants to know, is it possible for any country in the world to compete with Chinese chemical industries?
Yeah, again, a very fair question, and because there's a bit of history in this, I'll talk of it in relation with the pharmaceutical industry. At the turn of the century, India was self-sufficient in the pharmaceutical world. We had factories making APIs, active pharmaceutical ingredients, which are basically chemical industries. We were having making drugs and we are exporting drugs. And of course, it catered for a domestic thing. But with globalization and letting China come in, they undercut our chemical industries. And complete API has gone to China. So we are dependent 80% on APIs from China. Now uh, we have already started a program where we are going to start making APIs in India, but it's going to take time. Okay, it's going to take time. It's going to take maybe 5, 10, 15 years. Even then, your dependence on China will not go away, and it's not needed also, right? Because see, it's not as if you have to cut away everything from China. Let China produce. Why not? And all these chemical industries and all are pollutants. If China wants to get polluted, so be it. Why should we stop it? You have to get your trade levels down to a baseline, as a result of which they cannot touch you, and they need your, you know, market to survive, not flourish, to survive. So that should be our idea, and I think that we are going there. Okay.
Mahendra wants to know, will China try to attack India swiftly at key points just to prove its supremacy to the world? If so, are we prepared to defend at all the fronts?
See, countries do not go to war with each other to prove supremacy. That era is over, right? And the geopolitics today, uh, there's no room for someone to say I'm superior to you. See what's happened to Putin and what's happened with Ukraine. Ukraine is a pichu country in terms of many issues. It might be a huge country in terms of size, but not in terms of power and uh, population and all that. Not India. Okay. And the Indian armed forces, admittedly, by many calculations, are one of the toughest armed forces to handle. Right? We have never lost a war except the 62 war. You have to understand. China has never won a war except the 62 war. They don't have experience. So I think we are more than a match for them. We are prepared to defend at all fronts, is there no doubt. Yeah.
Magnet Ranga wants to know, is it possible that she is talking sentimental to cover up for the other deficiencies?
He is not talking sentimental. He is being good political. He's been a good political artist, if I put it. Tell me one politician who will say my country is bad and I am doing bad. Same as with this fellow. He wants to stay in power. So for the past 10 years, he said, oh, the country is going to dogs and I have revived it. Now, which dog is it that was growing at 10%? He's brought it down to 3% and he sold it to his country that, no, this dog is the best dog going around. There's nothing sentimental about this man. He just wants to stay in power. To that extent, I call him a man with a lot of ambition who wants to be the greatest Chinese ever known. He's already written his history. Can you imagine? When you're talking of a guy, I'm not talking of psychological bent of his attitude. He's a man who's written his history. And he's the chap who's made historians write that Xi Jinping is one of the greatest Chinese alive, or the most consequential leader, and he's the core, and his core has to be protected. This is all this has happened. You think a chap who's in power, who wants to stay in power, will do anything funny? He'll only try to stay in power.
Before we go to the next question, General Ramshankar, I want to add to what you said. There were these 20 or 30 families that had marched with Mao. Think of it that way, 1949, right? So Xi Jinping's family is also one of those. So these families, as they got power and they became more powerful, they all started planning their own families. Turns out that they typically like to have four children per family, never mind the one child per family rule. That did not apply to this core group. And the reason they did that was they wanted one to go abroad, one to go into business, one to go into politics, and one, I don't remember what the fourth one was. Anyway, so cut a little further. Xi's father had two sons, and the elder one, elder to Xi, was much more smarter and much more articulate, and Xi was much more recluse, wouldn't say what is in his mind. And his father was saying, I'm going to send my elder son abroad. And then I think his wife asked why, but this guy is more suited to be a political successor. He said no. Why? Because Xi thinks like a politician. He never lets on what he's thinking.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you completely. When he was nominated as the president or elected as the president of the general secretary of the party, he was more of a compromise candidate.
Yes.
He
And
it was
viewers,
thought that he was a dumb guy and probably a man without character. What shall I say? Charisma, a
yes.
dull guy who will toe the party line. He did exactly the opposite. So that's how it is.
Next question, Nagarajan Srinivasan wants to know, sir, what happened to yudh abhyas with US military? Did it take place or was it deferred?
Uh, I'm out of touch with it. I don't know the latest. So let me be very honest with you.
Maya Jagannathan wants to know, zero COVID policy is really hurting Chinese economy. Video of workers fleeing iPhone manufacturing facility have gone viral.
Yeah, it is. There's no doubt about it. There is no doubt at all. Yeah.
Surekha, I think. Sarek, I don't know what language that is. Sorry. Namaskar, General Ravi Shankar. What is the quality of ships and submarines of the PLA Navy?
Well, I don't know, to be very honest, because I've never been on one or never seen one at close quarters. Right? So I wouldn't like to comment on it. I suppose, look, you have to grant them certain things. They've been good engineers, fundamentally. Right? The Chinese. You look at their construction, their infrastructure, everything. They've been good engineers. So I suspect that they're good. But there are also reports of PLA submarines going down, not functioning well. And there is also a huge suspicion about anything about China or the Chinese, engineering. If you go to Korea or you go to Japan and say, look, this is a Chinese item, they'll say this is the worst item going around. They don't trust the quality. So if you go by that, yes, we all know that they do a lot of copycatting, right? Imitation. So the quality, I suppose, if you extrapolate all these ideas, they can't be too good, right? And they believe in numbers rather than quality. That's how, at best, you can make an estimate.
And Maya Jagannathan wants to know, protectionist policy of US towards vassals like Japan, Germany has hurt the economies of these countries. Has it? I think she missed out that part.
Yeah.
Has Japan started equipping itself militarily, realizing that US umbrella is hurting it?
Well, I have a different take on this. It is US which revived Japan and Germany, and
Yes.
through the Marshall Plan, right? So I don't see how they're being hurt. And you also have to realize that what's happening between USA and China today. There's a precedent to this in a different manner. You go back to the 70s. The Japanese economy had started uh, threatening the American economy. There was a time when it was said that the Japanese economy will overtake the Chinese American economy. Right? This was in the period of 70s, 80s, if you do care to remember. And Japan went through the same cycle. It threatened the American economy, but then the aging factor caught up. Then a lot of overheating of the Japanese economy took place. They had a real estate slump, and now they are where they are. They stagnated, really. Okay. You could call it stagnated, you could call it plateaued, whichever way you want it. Right? They are a big economy, but they don't have the say which they uh, should have had or threatened to have in world affairs. Today, I see an echo of that with China. China has not progressed on its own. It is thanks to US and Western investment into China, the South Korean and the Japanese investment, even the Taiwanese investment into China, which has made China what it is today. If all these people even go off by 25%, you can see the effect. Yeah.
Next question, please. AK wants to know, sir, do you have any information about the Chinese GDP? It looks like their GDP could be 40 or 60% less than what is reported. How do you see their narrative building? What can we learn?
See, let's put it this way. Everyone suspects their GDP, and I go with that. But let me not fight with what is reported. Let me analyze what is reported, and I showed you the Xi Jinping rate of growth. Okay. So, and he's built a narrative as if China is growing. China is one of the greatest economies in the world. China is one of the greatest nations in the world, despite the presiding over a slowing economy. Right? So, what can we learn? Politicians will sell you a brick. It's up to you to discern whether that brick is good or bad. Okay, and how to use it. It's up to you to see whether with that brick you break your own head or build a wall. The choice is yours. Okay. The next thing is that as an Indian, we have to be careful not to uh, start living in a fantasy world. Let's not get ahead of ourselves in saying that, oh, we are the fastest growing economy in the world and will continue to be so XYZ. If you see the Chinese, what's happening in China, tomorrow it might happen to you. Have you taken safeguards against that? Have you built things for your people? Would you like to be another China? No. We have to be a better India than an alternate China. And we don't have to cater for the Western world, please. I would like India to grow for India and for Indians. Our growth is not to become another factory of the world or shop floor of the world. No, that's not how we look at it.
Devkumar Mukherjee wants to know what India is importing in large scale is that our imports from China has gone up, resulting in trade surplus in favor of China. What is India doing for its own domestic production?
Yeah. Yeah, like I told you, we have started a program where our dependence on API will come down on China, but it's going to be a 5-6 years affair, and even then it will not come down full, and it should not happen. Also, we should come to a state where uh, China knows that we can live without them, and China will have to come to us to sell their APIs. So that's the shift which has to take place. But there's a problem with us. Your trade with deficiency with China or trade surplus of China will go up. The trade adverse balance of trade will continue. Why? We are switching to electronic vehicles, and the battery technologies reside in China, right? So you have to import batteries from there, lithium-ion batteries. You don't have that technology. So unless you have that technology, uh, uh, you know, uh, You can't reduce your dependence on China. So be prepared to be go through a period where your adverse balance of trade will increase, not decrease. And if your PLI scheme, okay, and everything goes as per plan, then after 5 6 years you'll see the decrease happening. So we have to be in a state of reality. Let's not dream that China is running away. Let's not dream that you're leapfrogging ahead of everyone.
All right, viewers, we are not going to take any more new questions, but we'll finish the existing ones. There are 2 or 3, General Ravi Shankar, if it's okay with you.
Yeah, will.
Yeah, but no more new questions, guys, because we are already way over 1 hour. Himank 957 wants to know, what would be India's position if China invades Taiwan in the future?
Look, it depends on how things go. My first question is, will China invade Taiwan? Second, what should my position be is a different story. What should US position be if China invades Taiwan is the bigger question, right? And you're not going to go and act there in isolation, okay? And at that point of time, if an opportunity presents itself at the LAC, you act. And then it depends on a whole lot of geopolitical factors at that point of time. Let's see how it pans out. You can't say today that if you invade China, I'll do this. You have to have a range of options open to keep it open, and let's see how things happen, and we'll play the card. There's a huge poker game going on internationally on these issues. Okay.
Next question from Pawan Rao. How would have Donald Trump handled the current geopolitical situation?
Pawan, you have to ask this to Donald Trump only.
Vivek Manjeshwar wants to know, why did Xi Jinping attack successful Chinese corporate like Alibaba and others?
This is a very valid question, right? Alibaba and all these other concerns were collecting data and information. They were becoming repositories of data and information in China. That threatens the communist regime. There was also, one article I read where Alibaba had something like, your Google Pay. He had started something like that, Alipay. And that Alipay threatened to circumvent the yuan. That put the skids with under Z. So he had to take them out. And of course, he also felt that the state control is more important than private control of the economy. You see, at the end of the day, Z is an ideologist of the Mao variety. For him, like I told you, what was going up? Ideology, state control, Xi Jinping is going up. What is going down? Economy. And that's come out very clearly. And that is why he had to take all these chaps out. Jack Ma was becoming too big. In USA, you can have people like Elon Musk and, whoever you want doing what they want. But a guy like Jack Ma can't compete with Xi Jinping. So he had to be taken out. And this happened across the board for everyone.
And viewers, before we go to the next question, what General meant was YUAN, yuan, the currency of China, not UN, not United Nations. It sounded like that. First I was confused, then I made sense. And just wanted to clarify that. Next question, please. Himank 957. Why does the Indian Army operate low numbers of Arjun tank? What went wrong with the Arjun program?
Well, we'll not talk of this because this is not connected with the topic we are talking of.
Yes. Totally in agreement, sir. Next question, please. Bapi Raju wants to know, are Chinese more healthier than Indians?
I have not gone into this. I don't think so.
That brings us to a close of what I would call as one of the most fascinating sessions on looking at China and what it is probably planning or what is playing through their minds. General Ravi Shankar, as always, an hour with you is worth 10, looking at 10 hours of TV programming. Thank you once again, sir, from the bottom of my heart. And viewers, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. And if you want any reason as to why you should, this is the reason, this video. Thank you very much, sir. Namaskar.
Namaskar. Thank you.